So we saw some challenges. Let's speak about some strategic aspect, right? Obviously, we cannot get into the details. I think it's almost 3:25 now. I'm supposed to end in the next 10 minutes. Okay, we'll quickly run through this. So after this, I think it's the tea break. Is it okay if I continue for 5-10 minutes because we lost some 10 minutes?
Yes.
Okay, good. So adoption strategy, scaling approach, right? There are two general approaches, right? When you say bottom up, you take one of the teams, pilot teams, use Agile, see if the benefits, then spread the message, start influencing, and then slowly start increasing. How many of you tried this approach? How many companies? Was it successful or is it still ongoing? Successful to some level, right? You are able to influence. Good. Top down, like the CEO writes a new blog. Okay, guys, from tomorrow we are new company. Let's go Agile, right? Here is the message and here is a new thing, new way of doing it. Here are the new policies, and everything boils down to the directors and the senior management and then the teams, and eventually a lot of organization decisions being driven. Okay? Some people start both ways, right? Top down and bottom up. Some companies. And then the organizational alignment. Agile education and training initiatives. Just want to see how many points. Okay, then I want to go. When we talk about organizational alignment, when you are talking about a scaling scenario, there is a need of aligning your engineering teams with your operations team, or some people call the infrastructure team, DevOps, a new concept. There's a need for aligning your HR team in terms of hiring. Hire for attitude, train for skills. That was the old mantra. Now it's slightly changed. I can speak about it some other time. But hire good attitude guys, train the skills needed, right? But let's not get some technical expert but who's a rotten person in the attitude, right? He's going to spoil the agile culture. That's the nature, right? Now that alignment and the corresponding result is a serious need in terms of organizational, or whether it's a sales function, market function, there needs to be an alignment. Okay? That's the main approach. And then the Agile education and training initiatives. So I think in the morning session we were speaking about managers are never sent for training, only the engineers and scrum masters are sent for training, right? Not just managers. Whoever is crucial part of the engagement, right? The initiative, they need to be educated about Agile, right? Otherwise you won't speak the same language. At least your frequencies don't match. So Agile education, enabling external coaching. A lot of serious companies consider the need for enabling external coaching. There is a definite purpose why we should do this, and at appropriate times we should do this. Okay, so we'll talk about that sometime later. And now sometimes, okay, have you heard of any company which has successfully transformed into Agile, large scale? Any examples? Salesforce. Salesforce, yes. Salesforce, that's a beautiful example. There was a time where Salesforce.com was about to collapse as a company, and then they decided to go Agile, and they did it in their own way. And I got actually, fortunately, I was able to work with a person called Pete Behrens, who was a key driver in the Salesforce.com. We both have worked in some companies, okay, together. And he shared some insights about how they brought in external change agents to trigger certain things. Right? And now, actually, the story, the pattern is continuing. Some of the key people who drove that, they've been invited by other large companies to drive as an external change agent. Okay, I've seen a lady who's come from Salesforce and who's helping one of our other clients. Okay, so those are about the adoption strategy. So we talked about the initial challenges. We talked about the adoption strategy. So when I say strategy, these are the important aspects of the strategy you need to consider. You need to strategize. We're not going to end up speaking about the details of the strategy, but these are the important aspects. But then strategy is strategy. We need to really adopt. Right? We need to make that happen. We need to put strategy into action. But then what are some of the problems that we see, that issues? When you're talking about this overall alignment and the bottom-up, top-down team structure, a lot of team structure which will come up. Feature team versus component teams. How many of you know the meaning of that? Feature versus component team? Yes. So feature teams are basically cross-functional, sometimes cross-component teams which can do end-to-end work, versus component are like only UI, only web services, only anything. Structural change. And then the role clarity and role mapping, right? Till date, I think I am into serious consulting from last 5 years now, Agile consulting, 4 to 5 years. I have not seen any Scrum Master is only playing the role of a Scrum Master effectively for a longer time. When I say longer, I'm talking about beyond 3 years. A Scrum Master, in order to really perform to his or her potential, you need about 3 to 5 years to even learn that. Okay, Scrum Master is a leadership position, and fortunately many people don't recognize it. They only recognize that it's a postman job, coordinator job, who can just go and get some sticky notes and draw something on the board, right? No, it is not. So role clarity. A lot of companies ask the Scrum Masters to wear at least 3 hats. Tech lead comes Scrum Master come project manager, come this, right? It's just not possible, at least in the beginning part of the job. Once Scrum Master gains some maturity, yes, of course, you can try to maybe handle a couple of teams or maybe wear a couple of hats, but it's not possible in the beginning of a transformation journey. It needs a dedicated role. Okay, but I've seen some companies where they have taken serious steps of creating a position, official position called Scrum Master, title called Scrum Master. I've heard about that example. Okay, so and then role conflicts. PMO realignment is the biggest thing. Whether you like it or not, whether you want it or not, PMO is going to be there and it is needed. But they just don't have any clarity on what is their role in the new release planning perspective, Agile release planning, right? Which is driven by a product owner. Earlier it was done in some other manner. So what kind of say they have, and how do they pitch in when there are issues, organizational impediments, right? And how do they balance between your delivery and your innovation sometimes, right? A lot of companies truly doing Agile will do it for building innovative products. So when there's innovation, there's regular delivery, right, with revenue. How do you do that balancing out? PMO role is very important, but they have a lot of conflicts. And then framework rigidity trap. I just coined this word. Okay, I've driven using SAFe framework. I've worked with Craig Lamb framework 1 and 2 in large-scale transformation. What happens is the framework themselves are good, but when it comes to implementation, a lot of leaders get trapped. Okay? Initially, they start with very good thing. Okay, so here is how framework suggests. Let's form this structure. Let's do this. Let's train all our people. In the truckload after truckload, you get trained CSM or whatever, right? After that, when it comes to the actual execution and things like that, you get trapped mainly because you're trapped in the framework boundary, right? And again, from a general perspective, if you really want to understand a framework, right? A framework is nothing but a skeleton, maybe some do's and don'ts, some boundary conditions, but it is not complete without you filling into it, right? Don't you guys agree? The technical way, if you think about a framework, the same thing with even Scrum for that matter, or any scale framework. If you don't know how to fill based on the context, you get trapped in the name of the framework, and I've seen that. Okay, so that's another problem with adoption. And then as far as these 3 items are concerned, we don't know whom to educate and when to educate, or whom to invite for external coaching. How do we decide? And more than this, the beauty of it, I probably shouldn't say this, being an Agile consultant and coach, but most of the times, when they call people like us or any other coaches, they don't set expectations. They don't know. Most of them don't know, and most of the coaches also don't know why they are there. I mean, a lot of people think that, okay, we are here to teach them Scrum. Okay, in Scrum we do this daily Scrum, 15 minutes, that's all I think, right? I mean, obviously that is not going to be an effective engagement without tying itself with the business objective. So when it comes to larger scale things, leaders of the organization fail in setting the expectation for these people who are doing the training, coaching or whatever, right? And consulting. There's a lot of problems. Okay, so then comes to delivery strategy. I don't know how many of you have heard about 5 levels of planning in Agile, right? Or multi-level planning. The 5 levels of planning, and then Agile engineering practices. Now, so these are very important because in a scale manner, there will be probably every day, there is a chance where you can get misaligned. There is a chance in which you can get disconnected with all these levels. And the role of Scrum Masters, managers, the responsible leaders is to ensure that disconnecting doesn't happen. Even if it happens, you need to fix it now. Right? There is a lot of misalignment in the multiple levels of planning, which is not so very important from the strategy point of view, from the delivery to make sure that they are connected. Okay, and then Agile engineering practices. We talked about this. These are all the very important aspects from the delivery strategy we need to consider. Again, when it comes to the actual thing, it's not strategy, you have to really deliver, right? So let's see what are the kind of challenges we're facing. So with respect to multi-level planning, the product areas misalignments, the sub-areas, there are cross-team functional dependencies, cross-team technical dependencies which are not handled properly, organization impediments, lack of forum to flag and remove. So for example, teams at some point will become good in removing their own impediments, self-organizing teams. But what happens when some teams cannot solve, it is not within their control, organizational impediments, maybe some policy changes. Where is the forum in a scaled manner? Where do we track it and how do we ensure that it runs in the agile fashion? It's not like you run a report and you just submit to the CEO and then you only hear from him from after 6 months, right? It cannot work. So where is that forum, right? In the Scrum-based scaling, we call this as Meta-Scrum. So where is the Meta-Scrum forum, right? And then failure to change our policies. When it comes to engineering, the architecture war, the big design upfront architecture versus emergent design architecture, we talked about it. It's mainly because of the mindset. And then the next level is how do you make it happen? It's easy to say, start with the emergent architecture, start with unit tests. But then if you want to explain and demonstrate to someone, even to convince some senior management, it's not an easy thing, right? You can always do a demo of emergent architecture, but how do you really apply it to your actual product development? That's a difficult stuff. And DevOps integration failure. We talked about, I think you've heard many DevOps sessions in the morning. And then the backseated automation, right? Delivery pressures, automating legacy application. And due to this, automation will take a backseat in the overall scaling. How many minutes we have? 5 more minutes? Can I take 20 minutes? Sure. Okay. So I think I'll jump to the case study. So there are a couple of other points. So the previous challenges get worse when you have distributed teams, right? Especially the silo approach towards engineering practices. And when you have engineering challenges, and then you're talking about distributed teams, there is a constant war of I own this code base, I own this component, right? I don't want to give up, right? That's a serious problem in the scale context. And then inter-team dependencies starts rotting. In the previous, without distribution, there are challenges, and here they are rotting challenges. And then engineering, distributed, and then multi-vendor distributed teams. When you're working with partners, right? I think we need a 3-day course to even understand these things, but just take a look into it, right? The different companies' style conflict, engineering styles, and again I own this, and screwed up technical decisions, right? Because there are multiple vendors and not much of interaction, not much of collaboration. The delayed screwed up things, this technical decisions which are screwed up will only surface late, or sometimes they don't even surface. You only see the impact on the project. And then the contracts, and then you get into the contract war because you have multi-vendors. Okay. So I just take 2 to 3 minutes to draw a case study, simple case study, just to give you an idea of what it takes to even approach a scaling engagement, whether from a coach point of view or a management point of view or leader point of view, from the team members point of view. Ramesh. I'm going to ask you a question. Given a situation, I'm going to ask you a question, right? And you can think about what happens in the future. Scaling engagement, okay? And there are different stakeholders in it. Okay, there are engineering teams. There are basically engineering teams. There is a senior management or probably the leadership team, and maybe the other functions, support or infrastructure. Right? Do you imagine that there will be a scenario most of the times where people can have conflicting expectations?
Yes. Exactly.
Yes. Right? Most of the cases it is true. Now, as a first approach of even scaling strategy, we need to first of all understand each stakeholder's expectation, and then try to come to an alignment, at least at a high level to begin. You cannot really discuss everything and then make a proper plan, right? That's not agile. So you have to at least at a higher level goal, what are we going to achieve, and how each stakeholder needs to align themselves towards that goal. And I'm using the word align, I'm not even talking about how to implement. If there is no agreement, you will go for the first step itself. Let's say you manage to do it. The fun starts after that, right? You know that there are different stakeholders with probably opposite kind of expectation, and then you think that you got an alignment, okay, when you make an effort. And then when it comes to execution, there will be always a lot of differences, right? How do you deal with it? Now, is it possible for a coach who's driving to deal with them alone? Is it possible for only a manager who's probably the important manager in that organization to deal with? No, right? It requires a great degree of collaboration from the leadership point of view, along with coaches and whoever is involved. So we had an engagement where we had this kind of a thing, and unfortunately, even within this engineering team, there were two sets. There's a large set who used to hate Scrum or Agile for whatsoever reason. There were few members from different teams, or maybe one of the managers also, who are like champions. So one of the key things to deal with, whether you're wearing the hat of a coach or a leader who's driving this, is to find out those champions in different stakeholder segments. Find those champions, make them your party, and then slowly use their help, take their help to understand the problem and the expectation much deeper, and then propose sensible stuff. If you try to bulldoze, the stakeholder will make sure that you're out of the engagement, whether you're an MD or whether. So we have seen a company where they got their CTO fired after a few months, right? So anything can, it's a political management. So the final message I want to give you, because of the lack of time, it's all about political management. Okay? When you want to deal with large-scale transformation. If you're not good with people, so that's why my suggestion to most of the coaches and leaders is join Indian politics. Be a better Scrum Master, better leader who can drive this, right? So a conclusion, I think this is what I'm going to end with. So we've seen the bottlenecks, the team itself sometimes, okay? I don't have time to explain this concept, but then you have seen the other ones, right? Organization structure, culture, and leaders, okay? This seems to be the bottleneck, but in my opinion and experience, there is actually a single bottleneck for scaling. Do you know what it is? Mindset to some extent, but let's say you understood, you're willing, right? And you promised, you gave the buy-in, but then will it make the engagement successful, scaling? So there is a single bottleneck, and it's a lack of execution leadership, especially at senior management and the top leadership. This is my real-time experience. Okay, working on several engagements, and that's about me a little bit, and that's it. So for any other interesting discussions, we can probably do it. I don't know if it is still there. It's an excellent.
Thank you, Mr. Jayaprakash, Puttaswamy, for sharing your knowledge and experience with us. So before leaving this hall, I have some announcements to be made. So right now we are going to have a break of tea coffee break of 15 minutes because we are running short of time. So the wait for Agile Olympiad teams is over. So at 4:50 we are going to announce the results in the bigger hall. So the next session is going to be delivered by Mr. Naveen Nanjundappa, who is in between us. So people who want to attend this session can be here, and who want to join the Agile Olympiad results in finale, so they can just move to that hall. Or if you would like to continue with this session, so you can just hear the results in front. Yeah. Thank you. And one more thing, we have feedback forms in your delegate kit. So please make it sure you fill it and give it to the Unicom representative, or keep it at Unicom. Thank you.
What are others doing? One answer, everybody is doing Agile. Okay, let's do Agile. Now that we have decided let's do Agile, people start thinking about, okay, if I am supposed to be Agile, what are other people doing? Answers, in Agile, there are people, the other people who are running faster. They have a cross-functional self-organizing team. They have somebody called a Scrum Master. They have somebody called a Product Owner. Awesome. Is that all they do? No, they do something else. What is that? Sprint planning, sprint review, retrospective, and they do each sprint. Awesome. This looks very similar, very easy. 3 roles, 4 ceremonies. Is that all we do? No. There's one more very interesting and important stuff, and that is daily stand-up. If we don't do daily stand-up, probably we are not Agile. It's come to that level. Unfortunately, these are the things that happen. And then finally you will say, wow, the other people are running faster, and by doing this, we are running faster. So we are agile now. Unfortunately, you end up in a mess. You do all of this and end up in a mess. The reason is, you have successfully added one more story to the whole world saying that, look, Agile does not work. It does not work. We have tried. We have tried sprints, we have tried planning, retrospective, demo. We tried our Scrum Master, we tried our product owner. Doesn't work for us. And you will say it is a successful story. What is the reason behind this? The reason is very clearly, Agile completely misunderstood. Now, let me spend some time on, if Agile is misunderstood, then what is the real Agile that we are supposed to be? What is that we have to be thinking about? Okay? I spend a lot of time, I have coached and trained more than 1,000 people now. When I ask people, what is Agile? Okay? People give me these answers. It's time to market, faster delivery, shorter delivery time scales, Scrum Master, product owner and teams, self-organizing team, iteration, incremental, stakeholders and PO, most importantly, the minimum documentation, the team has the complete liberty to make the decision. I mean, the list just goes on. These are some of the things. Then I look back myself and then say, hey, is this what is Agile? Answer is no. This is not Agile. None of this is Agile, and that is the first reason why Agile is struggling. Why you are struggling being Agile. Because people think that, okay, if we do an iteration, then we are doing very good. We are Agile. Iteration is an iteration, it's a technique. Now, if this is not Agile, then what is that Agile that we are talking about? What is the Agile stuff that the whole industry is in need of? That is this. It is an attitude or the ability of an individual or an organization to deliver high business value every single time. Not just once. Every single time you deliver high business value to your customers. And what do you do with that? You deliver using your common sense. That is best practice. Many times when I talk about common sense, people just go like, hey Naveen, wait a second. Do you mean to say that I don't have common sense? We are such a big company. Do you think that all our experienced managers are without sense, common sense? I say unfortunately, yes. Why? Because your common sense is right outside the office building. You don't believe me? Let me give you two instances. Experiences rather. I went to a small kid, my niece. I think I have a photo here. My niece. Okay? She's a 2-year-old kid. And I said, darling, if I have to build something really, really big, what should I do? The small kid said, Anna, do it step by step. Do it step by step. Isn't it? I started thinking, wow, when did this girl attend a project management training? When did she go for a management class? It is the natural instinct that if we have to do something big, we do in small bits. I said, let me recheck this. I went to another cousin of mine, a 6-year-old kid, class 1 kid, and I asked this boy, hey, if I have to build something really big, what should I do? The small kid, 6-year-old kid, exactly repeated the statement. He said, Anna, do everything, chota chota, small by small. You first finish something and then go to the next one. Finish something, go to the next one. I said, wow. He's again using a different language, but to depict an incremental development. But in the organization that we are in, we always talk about incremental development as a process. We talk about iterative development as a process. And I said like, wow, we are naturally tuned to think simply. Okay, I said, forget all these things. Let me just go back to my own thoughts and then see why Agile is failing. And I went back to this statement. I don't think you will find this comment anywhere in any book, any place. This is a consultation of my experience. I will prove you two things. One, I said common sense is just like everywhere. Even the small kid has this, he's going to respond. The second one is the best practice part. If I go back like 20, 25 years, 30 years, nobody had a word called code review. Today, the code review has become an industry practice, industry standard. It's become a default. Why? Oh, if we have to have a code standard, we have to follow a code review. But I would think one step back. Go back 25, 30 years back and then think about the person who first did this. A person started having a code and delivered it directly to a customer. Probably the customer gave him a feedback on this is working, this is not working, or some kind of feedback. Repeated 3-4 times, a small introspect happens in this person who created. Is like, hey, wait a second, before I give it to the customer and get the comment back saying that this is not